Today, I find myself traveling across the Irish countryside, headed west to the city of Galway, a place where traditional Irish music runs deep. If you're new here, my name is David, and I'm an American mandolin player who's long been obsessed with the native music of this island, which makes it so exciting for me to be here to meet with Enda Scahill, an incredible tenor banjo and mandolin player who is one of the driving forces behind the groundbreaking band We Banjo 3. But today, we're not talking banjo. We're diving into all things mandolin. How does the mandolin as a relative newcomer to the genre fit into a sound shaped by centuries of tradition? And how has Enda carved out a voice for it that's both rooted and entirely his own? So join me as we explore the story, the technique, and the heart behind the mandolin in Ireland.
This is so crazy, like getting to be here in Galway with the Enda Scahill, man. What a treat.
Yeah. You look just like you look on the internet.
Well, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
That's a really good thing, yeah.
Well, then likewise.
That's one of the funny things, when you meet somebody that you've only known on like Zoom and you're like, whoa, you're way smaller than what I thought you were going to be. You're the same size, David.
That's good. Well, I was wondering if you could just kind of give us an overview of like, what's the history of the mandolin and this music that you play here?
Yeah, I don't know. But I'll give you my experience of the mandolin in Irish music. And that might be completely wrong. But, so I'm a banjo player, so I'm 49 years old. So I was playing banjo in the mid 80s, right, when I took it up. And there were almost no banjo players in Ireland. There was a handful. There was Jerry O'Connor, who wasn't really even playing Irish music. Even though Jerry is a very traditional musician at heart, he played the banjo and he just brought all of these other amazing influences. A lot of bluegrass, African sound, all sorts of crazy stuff, Massively inspiring to me. So I was a banjo player, and there weren't really that many mandolin players, right? So there was another band called Stockton's Wing, and Kieran Hanrahan was the banjo player with Stockton's Wing, but Stockton's Wing had drums and had electric bass, which was sacrilegious in Irish music, right? So Kieran did play the mandolin in Stockton's Wing, and he played the banjo. And there weren't really that many other banjo players. So the mandolin for me as a kid was this secondary instrument that I could bring to competitions so that I could compete in something else.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
So this, you would rarely have seen this in Ireland when I was a kid, right? And what we understood as an Irish mandolin was something that was this shape, right? And I remember the first time I recorded in Nashville. I was in a band and they got talking to Ricky Skaggs. And so we did a record with Ricky Skaggs.
No way.
I mean, I knew the names, right? But it's only now looking back, I'm like, Brian Sutton is on the record. Aubrey Haney,
man,
right?
So cool.
But here's a funny story. We were recording Ships Are Sailing. Now, the second part of Ships Are Sailing is... I was practicing it on the banjo. So I was sitting in my chair in the studio, got cans on, and I'm practicing the triplets. Right. Probably a lot easier now than it was in 2009. For whatever reason I was practicing. Anyway, I opened my eyes and I had Ricky Skaggs on one shoulder and Brian Sutton on the other shoulder, and they're watching. They're like, "What's up, triplet man?" Right? No, I'm going on a tangent. I took out this mandolin, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you got the paddle, right?" And I was like, "What's it?" So this was the paddle mandolin and the flat iron and
the
all
pancake,
yeah, all of these names that I didn't know. I was like, "Well, this is an Irish mandolin. It's shaped like this, and it has a hole in the middle, and that's what everybody played." This one is a very loud mandolin for as far as Irish ones goes, and it has this little monitor hole in the top, which did originally come with a cork that you could plug it. This one was made by a guy called Dave Shapiro, who lives in Clare. Now he only makes, because he works full time in IT or something like that, I think he makes like 2 a year.
Whoa. I'm so curious, like, why is it that you don't see many mandolins with F holes over here?
Now, this is just me making up answers based on my own experience.
You didn't have to say that. I would totally believe you.
Well, see, the quality of mandolins that were available in Ireland was really, really poor or really, really expensive. And most people didn't play mandolin because it wasn't loud enough in a session.
I gotcha.
So if you were a kid or anybody and you wanted to play Irish music in a session and you played the mandolin, and it was generally going to be a quieter instrument because we didn't have quality instruments. There was no Lowers or Gibsons or anything like of that stature in the 80s and the 90s in Ireland, because nobody was spending 5 and 6 and 7,000 on a mandolin to go and sit in a session, and then nobody could hear you because it was so quiet.
That makes sense.
A lot of the time, mandolin was like this secondary instrument for a lot of banjo players.
Okay.
Because the basic form is the same. That's why you hear a lot of Irish players when they play mandolin, myself included, who will play it like a banjo. So we're digging it, right? Making the notes, we're hitting the triplets. And so when I then watch Ricky Skaggs playing, and I'm like, he's barely touching the strings. What's this magic? And
Using like a quarter for a pick, probably, you know, like,
right.
yeah.
And at that time, like I was using, I mean, that's an 88, a 0.8,
Wow,
8 or whatever.
okay.
I think I was probably using like a 0.6 or something like that.
That's unbelievable, man.
So you just get this. It's a totally different sound. Well, anytime I make mandolin videos online, and people always ask, what pick are you using? And I'm like, it's a 1 mil. And they're like, whoa, something that heavy, right? That was unheard of. Wow. In Ireland, I would have, you know, somebody came along and said, here's this massive lump of a thing, try and play mandolin with it. I wouldn't have known how. So that's the sound of Irish mandolin, or Celtic kind of style mandolin. It has a little bit more of that thinness to it.
That's so good, man.
Yeah, but it is hard to do that with like a blue chip.
Yeah, I'm curious. That's like 1.3 millimeters. It's a big triangle pick. Wow.
Yeah, it's
Totally
funny.
different. Does it feel like you're kind of fighting against the pick a little bit more?
A little bit, yeah. You don't have particularly with the triplets, the definition isn't there in the same fashion on this mandolin.
Interesting.
Whereas if you try, that's a Dunlop flow. I like those because they got a bit of a ridge on them, right? And that's just a 1 mil. But again, it's hard but pointy.
Got a lot more like front end to the notes, like more attack and definition, which is nice for that, like all those articulations.
One of the big differences with bluegrass players playing Irish music and what we aim for in Irish music, God, that sounds insulting, but it's not meant to be at all, because I think you're a phenomenal player and there's so much I want to learn from you, is it's around where the emphasis falls in the tune.
Yeah.
Right, and you hear this all of the time, but you also hear it with people who don't play bluegrass at all. They play Irish music, but they don't live in Ireland, so they don't have this immersion in the swing, and it's very it's kind of hard to even describe it. Right, we call it nyah. We couldn't come up with a better word.
I've never heard of that. Yeah.
So. So it's a kind of a laziness that comes in, where the first beat of the bar is extended ever so slightly.
Yeah.
Now, you couldn't write it down, because once you write it down, it's going to end up becoming this kind of prescriptive sort of rhythm again.
I hear you.
So it's just being heavier on the. Now, if you go fast enough, it's going to straighten out eventually. So it's good up to about 100 BPM. That's my experience. Once you get up into 120, then you're into very fast session speed, and it's just by factor of the speed, it's going to straighten out a little bit. But that, I always thought it's a curious thing. It's probably one of the most asked questions in banjo world.
Are you emphasizing like if you're thinking in 4/4, like the 1 and the 3? Is that like?
Yeah.
That's interesting because in bluegrass, I find I emphasize the 2 and the 4 more because that's where I guess the fiddle shuffle kind of comes in bluegrass music. Chugga, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Or it's also where you're chopping as a mandolin player too. So it's just kind of built into my brain to want to emphasize those backbeats.
Yeah,
That's
don't clap on the 1 and 3.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think of a reel as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's down on the 1 and the 5. I'm going to put you on the spot now. So I want you to just imagine for a minute that you're in a smoky old pub, even though they're not smoky anymore, right? So we're in a really old pub in the west of Ireland, out in the sticks, right? And there's a fire on, a lot of turf fire. And there's an old man sitting beside the fire, and he's having a pint of Guinness. And you say to him, do you know what I'd love to hear is the Wise Maid, but lilted. You know what lilting is?
Yeah.
Some mouth music. Right. How would he sing it?
Oh, no.
You have to do that because I asked. I'll do it in a minute, and I can't sing it all.
Something like that, is that right?
Yeah. Now, I want you... I'll do it now.
Okay.
So,
I'm embarrassed.
I know, right? So sorry about that. You see, I've done this with kids who've never even been in a pub, and particularly with Irish kids, and they'll all go, oh yeah, if they're not like mortally embarrassed about any kind of singing or lilting. If you get into your head and imagine what it sounds like and what it feels like, and it's going to be my range is 4 notes, right?
Me too.
But with any exposure to that world or even that notion, we know what that's going to sound like. Right? And we're going to go. You'd never go. You know, right? That's a robot. Right?
Doesn't allow for breath either.
Doesn't allow for breath.
That makes so much sense.
So one of the things that I teach is to get people to sing the tune as they're playing it. Right? That's some way that some people will lilt because it becomes, it's storytelling and it's almost like a joke and it's funny and it's entertaining. Right? That's the rhythm that you want to try and get in Irish music. If you can sing it, you can play it because now it's inside you.
I've heard to keep up with some of these sessions, you have to know like thousands and thousands. Is that right? Like,
I think they reckon that most Irish musicians will know about 4,000 tunes.
oh
I think maybe there's 4,000 tunes and everybody knows 1,000. That sounds more right.
So you really have to be able to play by ear in order to do that, like to hear a tune at the session, pick it up right then and there.
Yeah. Wow. So there's musicians that would have an encyclopedic knowledge. Like I have an older brother who has 2 masters and a PhD, and he teaches Irish music in the university. And I know he could play probably for 2 hours every day for 14 days in a row and not repeat a tune.
Right.
Or certainly he would get very close to doing that. I know loads of tunes, but if you put me on the spot right now, I can probably play 2 hours without repeating a tune. But then I'd be really kind of searching for tunes in my head. So my library isn't as extensive as it was. That's just simply a factor of being in a band and touring for 10 years where you just end up playing a set list for, 100 days a year, right? Most musicians that are in bands will tell you that. Right. But I would definitely know 1,000 tunes.
I think I know less than 100. I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, are there as many bluegrass and old-time tunes?
In bluegrass, I feel since there's such an improv emphasis, usually there's like maybe 50 to 100 tunes that are in common catalog and a lot of bluegrass jams. I mean, not counting songs, but fiddle tunes, instrumental tunes, like, not that many, to be honest.
So I've been in bluegrass jams and really enjoyed them because I know like 5 tunes, right? I hope they play them in the key that I know. Then I just use a capo on the banjo, right? But you'll play. I mean, you know this. So you'll play one tune for like 9 minutes. Right.
Or 20 minutes,
or
maybe,
20 minutes.
or an hour. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Depending on how big the jam is. Yeah.
Yeah. So in an Irish session, you'll play a minimum of 3 tunes in 4 minutes.
Right.
And do that over and over and over again.
Do you do one of my few tunes I know? Do you do
One of my favorite tunes. You want to be in the video, Snappy?
Man, you're doing so many cool variations on that tune. Like when you play a tune like Banished Misfortune, are you doing different stuff every pass? Is that right?
Every single time.
Every single time. Yeah. Is that stuff that you've worked out in advance before, or is it just like off the top of your head?
No, so I'll constantly change it, and then like anything, you'll kind of go through seasons of what the changes might be. So my current season is putting in C sharps where they don't belong, or chords that don't belong in the tune at all. But that's just keep myself entertained. So there's a little C sharp that's really nice in that. I think I did a YouTube video on this Banished Misfortune, which had a lot of, like, it was all about variation.
Okay.
Oh, where is it? I was like, panic! There's no dot. Oh, there's the dot. I can't see the dot from here.
That is unreal, man. How on earth do you get to the point where you can just do that off the top of your head? Did you have to learn like variations from folks like Jerry O'Connor note for note before? Like,
sure, yeah. When I was 12 and 13, would have played his stuff inside out, and you learn all of these crazy things.
Wow.
But one of the things with Irish sessions, right? So we'll play 3 tunes together. We'll do that one. We'll do another tune, and you try and build in a key change. When you're playing with other musicians, you'll hear them do variations. And so then you steal variations of other people, and you'll try different things that you've heard from other instruments. So I love the uilleann pipes, the elbow pipes. That's the one with the long chanter and the drone.
I've tried. It's really, really hard.
Oh my God, I tried it when I was like 5 minutes, and I was like, I can't play this ridiculous instrument. So they do this tapping thing where they tap on the regulators and they make different chords. And so that's an inspiration for me. Yeah. Concertina players do different forms of ornamentation and chord runs and stuff, and so I try and pull from that. Fiddle, so you'll take variations from loads of different types of instruments,
right,
and try and incorporate them in. And then I throw some like little bluegrass licks in as well. That was probably a very bad example.
The dirty third, yeah. Love that.
And I like to think I can put in jazz chords, but I haven't sat down and learned them. So then I usually hit the wrong ones. You see, it's not improvisation, but it is in it's like microcosm improvisation variations. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't take a tune like Banished Misfortune and go, that was a really bad example.
That's what I do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're not taking the chords as a bass and just wandering around all over the tune. You got to continue to play the 90% or 80% of the tune, but then you can vary within it. That's a lot easier to do on the banjo, just saying. And that's fine because I'm playing it on my own. But if I did that in a session, it probably sound a little bit weird going against.
Right.
Yeah, that's why the C sharp sound very strange.
There's those jazz chords right now.
I know, but I don't know what I'm doing. I just try. I like to think that I do, and I throw them in the wrong place.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. So you'd kind of do something like that if you were working up your own arrangement of the tune or playing it yourself with an accompanist. That makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose I just have so many, no more than like a bluegrass player has so many licks. You know, when I had Jim Pankey on the podcast, and I was asking him about, you know, how do you build a bluegrass solo, and he was basically like, you know, the way he described it is you do the forward roll from Cripple Creek and then the reverse roll from this, and it's like like making a cake. You just put in all these ingredients.
It's a recipe, that's for sure. Yeah.
Irish music is kind of like that. And not every musician varies all the time.
Right.
You know. But I do have a sort of a boredom factor where I couldn't play it the same way twice. But like I said, you get into a sort of a box of variations. And you tend to use those a lot and maybe then get bored of them after a while. But that's the most fun that you can have in a session.
Yeah.
Is when you're actually interacting musically when you're playing with great musicians. And they'll do a little dive in the melody and you can follow it.
Yeah.
Do it the next time. That's the most fun.
Certainly, man. Dude, check this out.
Wonderful. Wow, the weight.
It's heavy, yeah.
Well, let's just give it the Irish pick and see what it sounds like.
See what it sounds like.
It sounds like you playing through a phone.
I don't think I could play that good, man.
Yeah, you definitely want the heavier. Yeah, this is really nice to play.
Oh, thanks,
beautiful.
Man. These make it sound so good.
Beautiful.
So as a mandolin player, you're still expected to really be able to do all the stuff you do on the banjo as far as triplets and ornaments and all that as well.
Well, expected by myself, yes. It's hard to describe it, right? Because the triplet is a slightly different mechanism to picking. I'll actually get really tired if I don't triplet.
Really?
Right.
Okay. I've never heard this before. That's amazing.
So if I just play that jig, and particularly with the heavier pick, and just play the notes, I'm starting to get a kind of a build-up of tension here that gets released by doing a triplet.
Wow.
So that's like crazy, right?
That's I've never heard of anything like that.
So if I need to play really, really fast, the more triplets I put in, the faster I can play. It makes no sense. But I think it's because the triplet mechanism comes down into your thumb.
Do you do the squeeze kind of to make it?
It's not so much a squeeze as it is a slight change in the angle of the pick.
Okay.
And the thumb becomes a little bit more active. So it tucks in like that, so that joint in the thumb moves. And I think by moving that into the wrist and the thumb, it relieves what is happening through the forearm and elbow. So I would get, like I said, I get very, very tired if I didn't do triplets.
Interesting.
So they provide a sort of a muscle relief. I really want Troy Grady to have a look at my arm and explain exactly what's happening. I've asked him, hey Troy, if you're watching, you really need to have me on the channel.
Get the magnet on there.
I have it, but I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm like, yes, I made a video of my arm, but I still don't know what I'm looking at.
It looks amazing, man. Whatever you're doing is working, that's for sure.
But I'd love to be able to teach it more, because there's a transition that happens from picking to triplets.
That's amazing.
Okay, and I definitely think, and when I'm watching the likes of you, David, and it's a thing that I can't do, which is the super fast kind of stiffer wrist kind of approach, right?
I don't know what I'm doing, man. I look at you, I'm pretty jealous, to be honest. I think no one told me not to use my forearm when I was growing up, and I just kept doing it, so I don't know.
But I think it's all, like the tone that you get, I'm convinced is coming from that. And there's so many players that I watch, and what blows my mind is the accuracy and the cleanness that you're getting with that kind of picking. But a triplet is a completely different mechanism, because it's in the wrist. And so changing from one motion to another motion back and over.
That's inefficient, yeah.
I think that's where sometimes, and I've been trying to help a couple of players who are like, I really want to do those Irish triplets. And as soon as they do, and I can see it in their picking, right? It's like you're going essentially from like this to this, back to this to this, right? And I'm exaggerating, but that's kind of at the heart of where the difference is. Whereas I tend to keep all of my picking very, very small. So I'm leaning into either one or other side of my hand and kind of rotating through the wrist as much as possible.
I love talking about this with you, man. Like what'd you call it? Supination versus pronation, is that right?
Yes.
Maybe we won't have time to get into this in this video, but
pro mandolin nation, that's where we're at.
So when you're playing on the low strings, you're kind of playing with your pick away from the mandolin, right? You're going towards...
Well, this is a whole new thing that I started in the last year.
Is that right?
So I did a lesson with Jake Workman. Because I was trying to help people play faster than 100 BPM. And I was like, well, Jake can play really fast, so he must know, right?
300 BPM.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. And so Jake explained to me that he changes his hand fundamentally when he needs to go super fast. He pronates onto one side. He's like right over onto this thumb, and then everything is like it's a completely different motion of the pick through the string.
Is that just to avoid hitting open strings you don't mean to, or is there another mechanic behind that?
So my understanding is that you have this basically there's two tracks that the pick can take.
Okay.
There's down escape, where it passes past the string below. So down escape. And the upstroke is trapped by the neighboring string, right? And then I would be more of an up escape player, so my downstrokes are trapped and my upstrokes are free.
Interesting. Is that more of like a trad thing to do, you think? Would a lot of Irish players do that? Or?
The bridge is in the way in banjo, because we rest behind the bridge, and it's hard to show it on the mandolin now. But if you try to pronate on the banjo, the bridge is in the way of your picking.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So a lot of this comes from guitar, where like the bridge is way back here, so you can do whatever you want, right? So what a lot of players, and definitely ones when I'm trying to help people get faster, they're doing what Troy calls a double escape, which is that when they do a downstroke, it escapes, and when they do an upstroke, it also escapes, and then they end up in bounce.
Okay. It's like the doorknob motion, yeah.
Yeah. And while there are players who can play that really, really well, it's generally considered a very inefficient method of playing, because you're bouncing, right? So what I was always an up escape player, which is that I would have leaned into this kind of karate chop side of the hand. So that's where I would mostly lean. And like, I truly didn't really know what my right hand was doing until I started investigating. And I would have always, when we'd come up onto the heavier strings, I would have kind of taken an internal effort and gone, well, I'm more likely to mess up here than I am on the lighter strings. And then when I talked to Jake, and Jake was explaining this, I found there is actually room to pronate a little bit on the lower strings, lower register strings. And that cleaned up an awful lot of the problems that I had getting stuck on. So I'll just do a little pronation, and that gives me way more clearance on those heavier strings. So I'm kind of switching between the two.
That's fascinating. Well, I'm curious, man, like if you had any word of advice for folks just getting into this on the mandolin, what would you say besides play the tenor banjo instead?
No, getting into Irish music. So the number one thing is you got to listen to really good music, right?
Yeah,
so I had Jake Eddy on, he was working with my Patreon students, right? And we're, you know, hey Jake, how do I play a bluegrass solo? I mean, I asked the question, and he was like, you know, it's like, you're going to tell me a joke in French, I think was his takeaway. He says, you don't speak French. How are you going to tell me a joke in French? I was like, he says, you got to go and learn the language.
That's a really good
And he
idea.
said, you know, go and listen to Clarence White. I was like, I never heard of Clarence White, right? You're going to go, I know Bela Fleck, and I know the Punch Brothers, right? And awesome musicians. But a lot of the people that I work with, they're listening to modern bands. And I'm going to sound like such an old fella. That's how modern music. But bands, for starters, are going to be more metronomic in their music, right? Because it's a bunch of musicians that are recording together. They'll often do it to click tracks because they'll send it out for guests and stuff, right? So the music is going to be much more homogenized. So you have to go a few layers deeper than that to get to the rhythmical masters of the music, and then to fully immerse yourself. I got a lovely message from a mom in Australia, and she said, every morning over breakfast we're listening to Noel Hill and Micheál O'Reilly, right? So you've never heard of Noel Hill and Micheál O'Reilly. But why would you? They're both concertina players, but two of the most rhythmical masters that you're ever going to come across. They have a lilt in their music it's almost undefinable. To an outsider who's, you know, heard one of these modern bands, Lunasa, who are all fabulous bands, don't get me wrong, they're going to listen to the Pure Drop and go, well, it's not that interesting or it's not that fun. And it wouldn't be to the casual listener. So to really start to understand the rhythm and the depth of Irish music, you got to go a couple of layers deep.
Gotta go deep, yeah.
You got to listen to Tommy Peoples and understand why the Donegal fiddle style is different to Martin Hayes, who played with the Gloaming and played the Clare fiddle style.
Right.
And while East Clare fiddle is different to West Clare fiddle, even though there's only 20 miles between them. But if you start to understand the music at that level, then you're going to start to hear the nuance. I remember, like, as a kid being brought by my music teacher to hear Tommy Peoples playing a solo concert. He was a master. And there was something in the music that was deeper than the music. Yeah. But it wasn't flash and razzmatazz. And that's all cool as well. Like, I mean, I was in a flash razzmatazz band and we played like high energy, but you wouldn't listen to that to try and immerse yourself in what it means to get the get the rhythm and the balance. Yeah, the nyah.
The nyah.
Yeah. That's the magic sauce. Right? That's the magic sauce.
I'm sure it takes a lifetime of just immersing yourself in that kind of music to be able to pick up even just the nuance of the rhythm, like you were saying. Yeah, you have to live between those notes for a long time to get that. There's
a great book called O'Neill's 1001.
I have that one. Yeah,
right. So, like, that's the Bible of Irish music. You know the story behind it, do you?
No, I don't.
That's really...
Please tell me, yeah.
So O'Neill was the chief of police in Chicago.
Really?
He's an Irish guy, an immigrant, like, came over in the early 1900s. Loved music. I don't think he played, and he definitely didn't know how to write music, but he was fascinated with collecting it. So there was Irish musicians coming over on a weekly basis. And he got one of his sergeants, who was able to notate music, to come with him to meet these Irish musicians that were fresh off the boat and were coming with all of these tunes that hadn't been collected before. And O'Neill would get them together in a room and he'd say, play me all the tunes. And his sergeant would write them out.
Wow.
And so he collected these tunes. Like, there's a famous story that he's in an important meeting or something like that, because he was the chief of police. And one of his deputies, or is that the right word, kind of came into the room and whispered in his ear. And he goes, I have to go, something very important. And what your man had whispered is like, there's a new piper, he's just after arriving into town and he has great tunes. And he leaves this really important meeting with the mayor or whatever to go and collect another 10 or 15 tunes and write them down. So that's the Bible of Irish music, is O'Neill's 1001. But it's a great backstory to how it all came about as well.
That's incredible.
Yeah, Chicago, yeah.
Well, I got to go learn my 4,000 tunes now.
Well, look, that's a great starting place.
Yeah. I know, a tune a day for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Or 10 years. Well, this has been so fun. Thank you so much.
But you know you're not allowed to take this out of Galway now. That's the rules.
Okay,
You
well,
just have to leave it here.
I'll just take your banjos then if that's all
No
right.
problem. I have too many anyway.
You guys got to go check out Enda's Patreon page, his YouTube page. He has an in-depth course if you're wanting to learn how to play the tenor banjo. You got to check out this video that we're going to do for Enda's channel now, where I show Enda how to play a chalkboard, which seems so silly after you've heard him do all this amazing stuff on the mandolin.
Just a huge thanks to Enda for sharing his music and knowledge with us here. If you enjoyed this, I'd love for you to stick around. There's more to come, more players, more places, and more stories about where the mandolin can take us. So if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell down below to catch the next chapter.